So let's talk about employee empowerment. You hear that term thrown around all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? We're going to break it down from this, corporate buzzword into something real, something you can actually use, drawing from insights in the book Quality Management.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You're in a meeting, you have this fantastic idea. You speak up, and then crickets. It's like your idea just floated off into space. Well, this explainer is all about digging into the systems that can fundamentally change that feeling.
All right, here's the game plan. First, we're going to define what true empowerment actually is. And spoiler alert, it's not the same as just being involved. Then we'll get into the why it's worth the effort. After that, we'll tackle the common roadblocks, and we'll wrap up with a practical guide for managers on how to make it all happen.
Okay, first things first, let's get beyond simple involvement. We need to get crystal clear on what it really means to empower a team, because the actual definition is probably more specific than you think. Here it is, the core of the whole concept. It's all about engaging employees in the thinking processes of an organization in ways that matter. Now, that last part, in ways that matter, that's everything. It's not just about letting people talk. It's about building a system where their ideas have a real shot at making a difference. And this is such a critical distinction to make. See, involvement is just having input. You get your say. But empowerment, that's having input that is actually heard and used. It's the difference between shouting into the wind and being a genuine part of the conversation that shapes the future. And ultimately, that's the goal, giving employees real ownership of their work. It's about shifting that internal monologue from, I just work here, to this is my project, my responsibility. When that happens, success becomes personal. Okay, so we get the what, but now for the why. Why should any company go through the trouble? Let's dive into the rationale, because this is where empowerment goes from a nice idea to a powerful business strategy. The business case here is just really compelling. When people feel that sense of ownership, it unlocks this whole cascade of benefits. All of a sudden, creative thinking and initiative aren't things you have to beg for. They just start happening. And of course, that directly makes you more competitive. But maybe the biggest thing, it's an incredible motivator. People who feel trusted just work with a totally different level of purpose. But, and this is a really important but, there's a prerequisite. For empowerment to truly work, you need a team that's already used to thinking critically. People need to understand the why behind decisions and see exactly how their piece of the puzzle fits into that big picture. Now, of course, if this was all easy, every single company would be doing it perfectly. So let's get real and talk about the inhibitors, the roadblocks that you are almost guaranteed to face along the way. When you boil it all down, the single biggest obstacle is, well, it's just human nature. It's resistance to change. It's a totally natural reaction, but it's the main thing that leaders have to plan for and manage. And that resistance doesn't just come from one direction. As you can see here, it can pop up from management, from the employees themselves, or even from unions. Each group might have its own set of very real concerns about shifting the way things are done. And if we zoom in on the management roadblocks, you can see it often gets pretty personal. It could be insecurity, right? A fear of losing control. It could be ego. Sometimes it's a simple lack of training on how to lead in this new way. Any of these can become these huge invisible walls blocking progress. So, knowing all those challenges, how do you actually move forward? This brings us to the most practical part, management's guide to implementation. This is the roadmap for turning this idea into a reality. In an empowered organization, the manager's role has to completely transform. And let's be clear, this isn't about giving up authority. It's about redirecting it. The new role is really about three things: a solid commitment to the process, providing clear leadership and vision, and, most importantly, being a facilitator who removes obstacles for the team. So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, it's having a supportive attitude. It's being a role model. It means you facilitate, you don't dictate. But two things on this list are just non-negotiable. You have to act quickly on the recommendations your team gives you, and you have to recognize their wins. Those actions build the trust that this entire system runs on. The book lays out a really clear four-step process. Step 1, you build that supportive environment we just talked about. Step 2, you identify and tackle the specific things holding you back. 3, you put the vehicles in place. We'll get to those in a second. And step 4 is realizing it's a loop. You assess how it's going, you adjust, and you keep improving. So what are these vehicles? Basically, they're just the tools you use to make empowerment happen. They can be as simple as brainstorming sessions or a suggestion box, or they can be more structured, like the nominal group technique, which is a great way to make sure everyone's voice is heard equally, or quality circles, where small groups meet up to solve problems. The idea is to have a bunch of different ways for ideas to surface.
And here's one more idea to take it to the next level: enlistment. Think of this as empowerment 2.0. This is when taking ownership isn't just allowed or encouraged, it's straight up expected. It becomes a fundamental part of everyone's job.
So that brings us to a final thought for you to chew on. Think about your own workplace. Do you think it truly implements and believes in employee empowerment? And maybe more importantly, why do you say that? Really thinking through the why can tell you a whole lot about the culture you're in.